how to complete your ACCA PER. Wow, if you're at the stage where you're looking to get it all sorted, to get all your experience logged with ACCA, and you're going, how on earth do I go about that? Well, I'm delighted to welcome onto the channel Omar, who's recently qualified ACCA, who's done his PER, who's going to walk and talk us through how he got on, how he sorted it all. But Omar, feel free to introduce yourself, my friend.
Yep, so hi guys, my name is Omar. I am based in London, and as James has said, I've recently qualified as an ACCA member. It literally just came in through the post today, actually. So
Oh, wicked.
happy, really happy. So that's a little bit about me.
Nice. Well, let's just get straight into it. For your personal experience records, that we all have to register for ACCA. If you don't know what it is, it's where as you're studying, you have to get your 36 months of experience and you have to log it on your My ACCA account so that it ticks off to say that what you're working at is actually an improved employer and an approved role on there. So, Omar, kick us off. How did you go about completing your PER and to get it all done?
Yeah, so my story is a little bit interesting. So I started off in a small firm. It wasn't an accounting firm, it was just a small company, less than 50 employees. But the great benefit that I had was that I had a supervisor who was ACCA qualified.
Hmm.
So she was able to guide me through the whole process, and I was able to sign off 5 performance objectives and
Mm.
about 18 months of basically experience, relevant experience.
Yeah.
And I started off as a finance assistant,
Mhm.
but the unfortunate thing that happened was that I was made redundant and I got moved to a bigger organization. And as you know, the issues with working with a bigger organization is that your work is not varied and it is quite limited.
Mm.
And the other issue that had to do was that I needed to find a practical supervisor in this huge organization. So, first of all, what I did was I wrote up a list of people's names that I could approach regarding if they could be my practical supervisor.
Mhm.
So, one of the issues that I found was that some people weren't qualified, or they were qualified based on experience but didn't
Mhm.
hold qualification. So that individual couldn't sign off my time.
Mhm.
And another thing that I'd like to highlight to students who may be watching this is that you've got to weigh up your pros and cons on whether you would like to work with that individual. So for me, what really worked with me is getting information from someone who's quite direct. So I seek someone who is quite direct because I'm someone who likes to understand where I'm going wrong. I don't necessarily want to be complimented. I want it to be direct. I want it to just hit properly. So and weighing up all and another thing to note is most people will go to their direct line manager to get their thing signed off.
Mhm.
But I would actually recommend to students to go up to someone who's quite senior, not the finance director, but someone just maybe a level below, maybe the finance business partner.
Mhm.
And the benefits that they can offer is because my role was quite limited, I
Mhm.
would simply have a conversation with my supervisor and I would say to him, hi, so and so, I have an exam in December, which is on tax. I haven't got any experience with tax, but I'd like to achieve this performance objective.
Mhm.
Could you recommend me to, or put in a good word for me for the tax manager? And he could just simply do that. But the problem with having a line manager is the line manager might have to speak to another person who needs to speak to another person who needs to.
Yeah.
I would recommend reaching out to someone who's quite senior.
Really good advice on there. And those performance objectives, how did you get on with them? Are there a lot? I mean, there's some people here tuning in today going, "I've not started my PER, James. What's going on here, Omar? Break it down for us."
So there's 9 performance objectives that you need to achieve. I think is it 4 technical performance objectives, and then
Yeah,
there's 5 fundamental
yeah, give or
mandatory.
take on it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So for me, because I needed to seek the individual out, once I've seeked the individual, I would set monthly meetings with the supervisor in order to just stay persistent with him. And I would do a lot of work beforehand, showing him. I had a presentation that I created for him, and it would go over 3 questions. What am I currently working on to achieve a performance objective?
Mhm.
What feedback or advice could I gain from the performance of the supervisor? And lastly, what are the next steps? So what that does basically is helps out the supervisor's position. And so you can get to a point where he can literally just sign it off.
Yeah.
So for me, you basically need to write around 300 to 500 words. And I would always recommend speaking to your supervisor before submitting it. So what could happen is you could write 500 words, submit it, and the
Mm.
supervisor might not get around to it, or he'll just say, I'm not actually quite sure about this. This isn't really specific. So I would always recommend having a conversation with the supervisor so that he can raise his concerns, and he can literally tell you, I don't think you was right in saying that, and can you get some more, this is my problems, and you can implement those changes, send an email, and he'll sign it off very easily.
Yeah, really good advice on that. And it's also worth noting to get on record, you can't just do your PER all in one go, all in a couple of hours. You've got to be really selective on those objectives on there and saying, this is the current role that I'm doing. These are what fits, and I need to allocate time to do it. And it's sort of a bit by bit by bit by bit, and it'll accumulate to get sorted. And what you don't want to do is just do your exams and then just leave it to the last minute, especially if you're moving companies, you've changed role, you've then got to go back and log experience. I mean, what springs to mind, Omar, when I talk about it in that sense?
You know what's so funny? Because one of the potential supervisors that I could have went up to told me a story of someone coming up to him and emailing him, but the supervisor not actually remembering the individual. So I would always recommend start as early as possible, because
Mm,
you don't want to end up in a situation. So in my situation, I qualified in December, January, basically. My last exam was in December, but I got to a point where I literally had two performance objectives outstanding and my time outstanding. So that was a really stressful moment. I needed to be really persistent, but I could have simply just avoided that if I went out, I reached out to my manager a lot
mm.
earlier in the summer, probably, and I could have got that section of my qualification out of the way.
Yeah, definitely. And it's the things that people just don't see when they look at the qualification. They go, the PER, oh, it's just my experience, I'll just log it. When it's the people skills and you've got to build a rapport with your supervisor, because it takes two to tango on these things. It's their credibility at the end of the day that they're not just going to tick it off and sign it off just for the sake of it to get rid of you. Because ACCA could come back and ask them and say, hang on a second, you signed this person off. You said that they were up to standard on here. I mean, is there any other bits of your experience that could help someone else out with PER from a completion rate or any other things that come to mind?
Yeah, so basically, just reiterating the point that make your supervisor's life as easy as possible.
Mm,
Don't dump all nine performance objectives thinking that he's going to sign it, because these people's have very limited time available
mm,
anyways. They have things going on outside of work life. So you need to make their job as easy as possible. So ways of doing that is doing the work, preparing, reaching, finding the right time for them to speak to, and just basically letting them know about all the information that you need from them and just being clear.
yeah, oh, I completely agree. Making their life as easy as possible because the supervisors, as you said, they're going to be senior. They're going to have other people to account for. Most likely got family lives, travel on top of it. And the last thing they want is your bits of forms that need doing. And then it could just get pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, which is obviously not what you want on there. But Omar, are there any other final nuggets of information on there? My ones that spring to mind are don't leave it to the last minute. Get all your details logged on my ACCA. Other things like you touched on, if you're changing jobs before you leave a role, make sure it's all signed off on there, because trying to chase up an old job for experience would be an absolute nightmare. What other things come to your mind, Omar, that you've got to get on record to help an ACCA student out?
Just a final point would probably be know the importance of building the rapport with your manager or directors, because you never know, that person might help you out in signing off your time or just giving you feedback or giving you advice. And they could turn out to be a really good mentor, a
Mm,
really good individual to have in your corner anytime you want to lean on them for support. So I would really emphasize the point on just interpersonal skills, relationship building. That's
mm.
really important. And I guess that's probably why ACCA actually recommend that you do this whole process. It's just the skills that you basically learn.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And think about it proactively as to you're at your trainee stage, and then you'll be going up to getting qualified, and you're dealing with more senior people. These are the people who are most likely going to be interviewing you or recommending you that you move up to manager level or start looking after clients or taking on more responsibility now you're qualified. So you want to have a good rapport with them as well. Just think about it yeah, they're going, I want them to like me on there.
Absolutely.
In
Yeah,
other
exactly.
words, on there. But guys, if you've got any questions, I'll put all the links about PER and some other notes and videos I've done into the description of this video. So make sure you check that out. And again, as always, Omar, a massive thank you for coming on the channel today on your debut for a football reference there for your entertainment and just sharing your experience. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure lots of people who are joining us today also do.
No problem. Thank you, James. Thanks.
Pleasure, mate. Honestly, make sure you give the video a massive like, guys, so it helps other students with their exams, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any other videos. But thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.